Hi, Lisa.
Hey.
Hey, Karina, how are you?
Uh-oh. How do I log out of this other stuff? Hey, Emily.
How's it going? We are live streaming to YouTube.
Can't hear you if you're talking to me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hold on. Oh, my volume's all the way down. Okay. Hey, Emily.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, there you go. I can hear you now.
Okay, very good. And just to let you know, we are live streaming to YouTube.
All right. Let me put my camera on. My thing back on mute. Let me figure out how to do that. Hi. Oh my gosh.
Hi.
Oh gosh.
It's the little button, the bed with the buttons.
Hi.
Can you see?
I cannot see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, there you go.
Hi.
Hey there.
The borders. This is about my place.
Hey, Kara, how are you?
Hi, good.
Hey, Kara.
Hello.
All right. Well, I am glad to see you both. We have 3 folks in the waiting room, and we are live streaming to YouTube as an FYI. So once we let them in, we can go ahead and get started. I just have those 4 topics that I put on the agenda. I know there were more, but those seemed like the biggest kind of buckets. If we have, 8 or 9 people, we can certainly do breakout rooms. I think if we have 7 or fewer, it probably makes sense to just keep people all in one room. And then I don't believe Dr. Gant is coming.
I want it to be outside, but it doesn't seem to be working, so I'm moving inside now.
Okay.
It keeps freezing. Okay, that's less fun, but at least I'll be able to hear.
I'm sorry. All right. So I was saying that we are live streaming to YouTube. We have 5 people in the waiting room. If there are 6, if we get enough, we can have folks move to breakout rooms to talk about these topics and have Kara and Karina in a room to talk about the topic of their choice. There are 4 topics on our agenda, but if there are other things that you would like to make sure that we discuss, we can do. So I will let folks in and welcome and ask for any sort of opening comments if there's news or information folks want to share, and then we can get started. Sound good? All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you all. It's been a while. Welcome. I will let everybody get logged on. Just to let you know, we are live streaming to YouTube as an open meeting. We've been asked to live stream, and of course, we're doing that on the CCSD YouTube channel. So, hi, Megan. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. How's everybody doing?
We're doing well. I'm seeing that May is a very busy time of year. So thank you all for making time for us this afternoon. I did send out an agenda. It's pretty short, but we do have Ms. Gallagher and Dr. Dykman here with us this evening from the board. And they had some ideas or questions that they were hoping to get some advice and feedback on from you all. Dr. Thomas is here as well. And I will be here to take notes. Sorry. And just as a reminder, we last met February 9th. I did send those meeting notes out after the meeting, but just as a reminder, we had actually done a survey ahead of that meeting and asked what you all would like to talk about. And at the last meeting, we talked about what the board should consider as it begins its search for the new superintendent. And we got feedback around that, how to help parents prepare their students for graduation. Connected to that was parent engagement, highlights. So making sure that we highlight some of the opportunities that folks have seen in CCSD, and then communication, West Broad, and decision making. So those were what we talked about at our last meeting. We do have the notes from those. We'll do that again in terms of taking notes. On the agenda this evening, attendance, cell phone policy as it connects to students, priority areas for the budget. We are in budget season, and board engagement ideas. I know most of you have met each other, but we're a pretty small group, so it may be nice to just have folks do a very quick again and hello and an introduction. So maybe Megan, if I could start with you, and then you can hand it off to someone. Just tell us your name and your connection to CCSD.
Yeah, hey, good evening, everybody again. So I'm Megan McNeely. I'm at Clark Central. I've been there about 5 years. I teach freshman English and I'm co-chair of the English department. Prior to that, I was at Clark Middle for 17 years. And I am a Cedar Shoals grad from a long time ago.
Not that long.
It was a long time ago. So do I call somebody next?
Yes, please
All right.
do. Yeah.
So next on my screen is you, Kara.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kara Dykman. I am a member for District 5, and I also have 2 kids in the district. One is a 7th grader at Clark Middle, and one is a 5th grader at Chase Street Elementary. Soon to both be at Clark Middle. Oh, sorry. I will call on Heather Dean.
I'm Heather Dean, and I have a daughter who's a freshman at Clark Central. Oh, sorry. I'll call on Rachel Irwin.
Thanks, Heather. Hi, everyone. Rachel Irwin. I am also a parent here in CCSD. I have a current 5th and 8th grader, both rising up to the next building. So I'll have one at Clark Middle next year in 6th grade and another one at Clark Central in 9th grade. Yes, Megan. I also currently am on the Chase Street LSGT, serving a 2nd term there, but switching over to the Clark Central LSGT here in a couple of months. Looking forward to that. And I'm also on the Charter System Advisory Council as well. Good to be with all of you.
And you call on?
Next on my screen is Montu. Hey, Montu, over to you.
Hey, Montu Miller. I have, I have a sophomore and a freshman at Central and 2 7th graders at Clark Middle, and then a 2nd grader at Timothy. Work at Cedar Shoals, peer leadership educator and ethnic studies educator, and on the LSGT at CMS. And let's see, Karina.
Okay. Hey, y'all. So I have I have a freshman at Cedar and a senior at what's the name of the school? Cedar. I see your goldfish. Yes. A senior at at Cedar and the Career Academy. I got too much stuff going on. Let me see. Miss Lee Smith is the next person on my screen.
Okay. Hello, my name is Lee Smith, and I was co-chair of the Apps Road Elementary LSGT for 4 years, and I have 2 grown sons that graduated from Clark Central High School some years ago. And I have always been a strong advocate and supporter of students of the Clark County School District and continue to be.
All right, thank you. And who would you like to call on?
Okay, I will call on Dr. Studevant.
Good afternoon, everyone. As always, I'm thriving. However, I'm Dr. Felicia McClain, Studevant, and I have 2 students here in the Clark County School District. I have served on Winterville's LSGT, and currently I'm serving on the Coils LSGT.
All right, welcome. We won't make you call on anyone. Dr. Thomas, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I am here. I am also driving, but I just want to say thank you for everyone for being here this evening. Although this is not the superintendent's group, this is our board member group. I'm still excited to be able to be on and hear the conversation and contribute in any way that I can.
Thank you. Both of you drive safely. And,
Thank you.
and that Lillian Kinsey. Yep, you're on mute. I think you're on mute. Oh, there we go. There you go.
All right. I'm Lillian Kinsey, and I'm on the Gaines LSGT. And that's it. I'm a retired educator with Clark County School District.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Well, thank you all. And we will, so this is an opportunity to share your input and feedback on the issues that the board has identified as topics that they are talking about and are looking for help and perspective around, and then to ask some questions about priority areas that you might have. So first up on the list was attendance. If either Kara or Karina have any elaboration on that one, I know it is a very big topic, but if you have any specific elaborations or questions, otherwise we can open it up for thoughts on attendance.
Just to clarify, this was to talk about potential ways to improve attendance. Is that the feedback that we were looking for here?
Yes.
Is there any way that we can maybe start with trying to understand what the current attendance rates might be at the district level, or even if we happen to have some school level aggregate data, just out of curiosity? Do we have that at our fingertips or in our brains? If not, no big deal. It's just helpful as a starting point from my perspective as a parent anyway.
Yeah, so I don't have the exact numbers at my fingertips. We can certainly get some of that. I know that the attendance levels, went down during the pandemic. They are coming back up. Maybe they are not to where they were prior to that. It is a topic that gets discussed at all grade bands, but in particular, we had a meeting with teachers from the high schools who are particularly focused on that. Anybody in the schools have a thought or observation as it connects to their work? Montu or Megan?
And I'll just jump in for 1 minute and say we've been like in the low 80%, which is, your target and metric is wanting to be at 90% attendance. Okay. We have been in the low 80s. Again, as Ms. Bonet said, kind of bouncing back from the pandemic. There was an article in the paper that triggered a lot of discussion amongst our teacher advisory board and parent advisory board and our board members and some community members who came and spoke at the board meeting about attendance. The article was written kind of in a misleading way because it was written to suggest that we have been, cited or received some type of CCRPI response from the state DOE because of our attendance, but that was not accurate. Actually, what the author or the writer of the article did was looked at the metrics that the state would normally use around CCRPI and then compared that to our current data. However, the state did a whole harmless year again because schools had been much lower still coming off of COVID. Clark County, one of the things that seemed to have impacted us was that we were the only school basically in our 13 county RESA that did not return back full-time face-to-face at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. So I do believe for some of our families, there was kind of that back and forth of face-to-face, virtual face-to-face, I'm just going to keep my kid at home decisions that has impacted our attendance. Also, the fact that we were out for so long, people got out of their routine, and many of the kids and even families, you just kind of get, I hate to say slack, but that's kind of the word of, you hadn't done school consistently in a year and a half and getting back into those patterns and routines. And then for our high schools, I feel like, and then Mr. Miller and others can speak to this, Ms. McNeely, we really do have a problem with students being in the building but not being in class. And that's something that we're working as a cabinet. We've given some suggestions. Some of the high schools have started doing hall suites, but really looking at what are some tools that we can give to help teachers and help administrators address those students who are coming into the buildings but not going to class. And, you know, what do we do about that? That seems to almost be a bigger issue and deterrent to learning than those students who just don't come to school at all. But I'll be quiet now and let our high school experts speak to that.
Very helpful, Dr. Thomas. Thanks for that perspective.
You're welcome, Rachel.
Again, guys, I'm over at Clark Central, and I teach freshmen, and by and large, you know, they're pretty good attendees because they're younger. They don't have access to their own cars. They're not doing career academy. They don't have wonky schedules, but I have noticed probably for the first time in my 5 years there, a real problem with attendance. I have a couple of students that we're talking on a semester level. I have one student in particular that I have not seen since the second day of the semester. And so just as sort of a case study, I suppose, that's my experience. We have, you know, I've reached out to every entity that I know to reach out to. And then what happens is once you've done all of that and your wheels have spun and spun and spun, speaking for me personally, I just kind of stop. And so this child has clearly failed. And we have failed this child, and the family is, I mean, there's just failure all over. And I don't know the situation. I don't know why, but I've noticed, and we all have, we didn't have that before. And then there are some other situations where, yes, we do have a lot of hall roamers. And when they are caught, having ISS is not the greatest solution in the world. So I don't know what the actual answer is. And I don't know, when y'all sat down with other teachers, what some of their thoughts, ideas, or proposals were. I do remember, and I'll just throw this out because this was, and I'll say it out there for YouTube and everybody, but I graduated from Cedar 30 years ago. So this is my 30th high school reunion this summer. And I do remember that our attendance policy was 20 absences for a year. And if you received 21, you did not get credit. And then you had to do summer school. And I had, my big brother actually had to graduate from summer school because of that. So it was definitely, at one point, it was an incentive to get your hiney to school. And we need something. I don't know what the answer is. Our hallways right now, we have 9 school days, well, 8, because we just finished the 9th. We have 8 school days left, and our hallways are not clear. They're not, there's kids always. There's always. So yeah, we need something. I don't have an answer. I don't know what some of the solutions are. Does the state have suggested requirements or anything like that to start with? I'm just curious. And then Montu, maybe you can pipe up about Cedar.
Okay, well, I can kind of give my perspective on Cedar. This is my first year there, but so there's a few situations. So a couple of my students, I finally got in touch with someone, Angela Gay, and she was able to kind of move them over to Foothills. So I had not seen them. Some of my students I wouldn't see for 2 weeks, once, and I see them again. Another one, like I didn't see a month. So long story short, I got it like probably 2 or 3 of my kids that actually got moved over to Foothills because I guess it was just a better situation. But I still do have some students that just, I don't know if they just don't feel like they have to come, or I don't know what the situation is, but they just, attendance is just not an issue with a lot of the students. The hall roamers, that's a major problem at Cedar as well. I just feel like once the students realize there's not gonna be any backlash from being tardy or being like a constant hall roamer. Once they figure that out, then they'll just do it. Like they don't get there's no structure in place. I feel like at this point, like I just don't feel like the structure's not there. And it happened, you know, the whole COVID thing and all these other things that happened. But I just feel like once the kids realize that they're not going to get any punishment or any backlash or anything happens from them. I have kids probably, and there's one or two of my kids, and I've kind of stopped letting them go to the bathroom, but they realize they'll go to the bathroom and they know they have 14 minutes because they know after 15 minutes, they'll be counted absent. So they will literally come back in my classroom at 14 minutes. And sorry, y'all, I'm outside. I had another meeting. But so the kids are like using these rules and using these, they are navigating this system to the point where they know what's going on. Like I said, I have students that will literally go to the bathroom and come back in 14 minutes because they know if they're gone 15 minutes, I'm going to count them absent. Like they would do that almost every day. And as a teacher, I can't really say anything. What can I say? The only thing I can do is possibly not let them students go to the bathroom, but then that becomes an issue. So I don't know. There's a lot going on, and I don't necessarily have the answer. But the one thing that I guess I try to understand is the problem with the hall roamers. Like I'm not an administrator, and I don't. Maybe it's above my pay grade or whatever it is, but I just don't understand why that's a problem. Like it just. Like I go out in the hall sometimes and there's 30, 40, 50 kids out in the hall. And I don't know, like that just doesn't seem like it should be a problem. Like we should be able to clear the halls. Like it's kind of insane to me, but I don't know. I could go on forever about all kinds of things.
Can I just put, sorry.
We'll go Lillian and then Heather. Yeah.
Okay.
It seems to me that the evident issue is attendance, but that's only a symptom. The main thing is what's going on in the classroom and whether or not these students are anticipating graduating at some point. It seems like that should be the focus, and that would clear up the attendance issue.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, they know they've got to pass the class and get the credits, but we're talking about students that just does not seem to.
Okay, and so in my mind, if you have that many students who are in the hallway when they should be in the classroom, then what you have is a lot of students who don't anticipate graduating, which means that is the issue. And what do you do with students who are not going to graduate? What's provided for students who will not graduate in a timely manner?
Now, I will say, just very quickly, and I know that this is just a small snapshot, but we are trying to work with students who maybe they don't have the required number of credits. So again, I'm primarily dealing with freshmen, right? And that's one of our foci is to make sure that we get as many kids with as many credits to move on, because ninth grade is so critical. And so at this point in the year, and we did this actually last semester as well, we will sit down as advisors and look at our students' grades and see, and honestly, we have some kids who have grades that are sad, very, very, very low. And so if it is a core required course, English, math, science, social studies, we will look to see which one they have a better or greater chance of passing. And then if it's their algebra class, for example, when they come to me for English, we're just going to sacrifice English. We talk to the parents. We acknowledge that summer school for credit recovery is in their future. And then we need to focus on math. We need to get that credit. And so they go to a study hall during my class where they can then work on credit recovery for the math. So we are trying, it's not the best solution, but it is a way to give them some credits. The other problem is that a lot of these kids that may be roaming, and I know Montu, I know you're going to back me up on this. They have, like you're saying, Lil, is I have a 32. What's the point in going? And so we can't offer that study hall, or we haven't offered it throughout the building because we don't have the manpower. And so I don't have a solution. We're doing it, like I said, just with freshmen at this point. But even today, it was held in my my classroom. No one showed. No students in there. So we're offering things, and they can graduate now with 32 credits. You only need 24. So there's room for them to mess up and still fix and still graduate on time.
They don't take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I promise that message is out there if they're going to advisement, if they're going to class to hear those messages. It's just this, catch 22.
The other thing that I don't know where the 15-minute rule came in, but does it have to be 15 minutes? Could it be 5 minutes? Could it be 10 minutes? Does it have to be 15 minutes? That's a lot of class time every period, or however it's done at high school, to miss several days out of the week. I don't know where the 15 minutes came from.
So I just wanted to say that, so I'm a parent whose daughter skipped large amounts of classes. She started freshman year, and she found a group of friends who didn't want to go to class and had other things to do. So from my perspective as a parent who was very involved and found out her student was skipping class, so, we went through August, we went through September, we got into October, and the only reason I found out she was skipping class is because I said to her, one of her teachers, I emailed her about something I needed, and she was like, well, where's your daughter? She hasn't been in class the last 3 days. And I was like, what? I'm sorry. And because I'm dropping her off at school, so what is she doing all day? And then I look online, I was on campus parent, but I wasn't getting the notifications that she was absent, and no teachers had called me. And I don't blame the teachers at all. You guys, they're busy. I get it. But we had no idea. And I looked on there, and she had missed 30 hours of class and had been tardy 20 times. And we had absolutely no idea. So I think part of it is making sure that parents know you need to go onto campus parent, and you need to sign up to get a notification every single time your child is absent. Because if we had known back in August when this started from day one, oh, she's not going to class. Okay, well, her phone's gone. She's not hanging out with friends. She's grounded. She doesn't get anything if she's not going to class. But if you don't know that, how are you supposed to have any consequences? So from our point of view, that was frustrating, because in the past, we'd always gotten the phone call, the email, and the text that she was not in class. So that's one thing that kind of needs to be fixed. She is also a hall hanger-outer. She likes to be in the hallway talking to her friends. So I definitely think there needs to be more bodies at the school of people who can be like, you're in the hallway, get to class. You're in the bathroom, get to class. And she is one of those people who will leave the class and come back 14 minutes later, because she knows that she has 15 minutes and she will not be marked absent. So that is a rule that needs to change for sure. I know they have to sign out on e-hall pass. I don't know if maybe you only let them sign out once a day, or you make it 5 minutes. I'm not sure what needs to be done about that, but that was something else, is that she will just leave class for 14 minutes and come back. And yeah, you do that in every single class, every single day. That's a large amount of instruction that she's missing. Sorry, I was taking notes. I want to make sure that I said it. The other thing too is that she had older students that were taking her off campus. So that's something else to think about, is that she doesn't have a car, but she had older students, and there was no monitoring of them taking her off campus at all. So I don't know how you fix that, but that was an issue with us. And there doesn't seem to be a district policy for what do you do with kids who are not coming to school. There doesn't seem to be a clear policy of what happens. Okay, if a kid missed 10 days, what's the next step? Okay, who calls the parents? Who's letting the parents know? If you don't talk to a parent, What's the next step? Does it go to a guidance counselor, the social worker, the family engagement specialist? Like, what are the things that we can do? What are the steps when a child is not showing up for class? That's not, to me, that's something that's not clear. But I think as far as like the kids being in the school but not going to class, you've got to have more people in the school that are sweeping the hallways and going to the parking lot and walking around. And if there's somebody sitting in a car going like, you're supposed to be in class, get to class. And that just takes bodies. That takes boots on the ground, as my dad would say. He was in the Army. That takes boots on the ground to be like, get back in class. So I don't know if I have a lot of solutions, but just as a person whose child was doing that, that's my perspective of how it was for us. So, I mean, once we found out
And
that
a
she was
lot of
giving,
what you,
you
no,
know,
go
then
ahead,
we
I'm
could,
sorry.
I'm just going to say, once we found out that she was giving class, then we could give consequences. Then we could take her phone away. Then we could, you know, ground her. Then we could not let her hang out with friends. But until we knew that, there wasn't much we could do. So.
Thank you, Heather. Dr.
And I
Thomas?
was just going to say that those attendance processes are actually spelled out. And I'm wondering, just listening to you talk, if they're done more diligently in our younger grades. But there's like what you do at 3 days, what you do at 5 days, what you do at 7 days, what you do at 10 days. One of the things we've run up against is that juvenile courts policy has changed, because we used to be able to take our older kids to juvenile court, not necessarily for a punitive action so much as for an attendance panel where the parent and the child were required to come in and those issues could be addressed. And it gave us a little more leverage, but they've stopped doing that. But I did receive a call from Judge Kamayu Hull this week, and they're about to reconvene the community attendance panel, which we're excited about because it'll allow us to do some collaboration with juvenile court, DJJ, DFACS, and other groups to look at what's done countywide. But I do know that at the younger grades, they do look at that attendance weekly, and there are steps. But I did bring up to our lead social worker that we need to ensure that those steps are being followed consistently K-12. I know it's harder when you have 14 and 1,800 students versus having 400 to 600 students. And I think they do depend more at the high school level for parents to have that call service, but we have to remind parents that they need to sign up for that every year, or at least check, because my daughter had some friends who they knew how to go in and disable that. And so even if the parents set it up, then the kids were disabling it so the calls wouldn't go out. I knew every Wednesday when it was advisement day at 5:32, because my phone would go off with a text, with an email, and with a call to say your child missed advisement. I just knew Wednesdays at 5:30 what was going to happen. So I was able to get those alerts, but I think we just have to do a better job of reminding our secondary parents that they need to go in and sign up for those things in the portal as well.
Dr. Thomas, that's a great point. And especially if it doesn't carry over from year to year, whether you're already in that particular building or that particular level or not, it sounds like I'm sitting here as an 8th grade parent saying, well, I get these notifications, you know, when if that happens, but I didn't realize even for my kids, I would have to reinitiate, much less now a kid going to the next building, to the next level. So I do think raising some awareness around that would be critically important. And I mean, there's a lot of other solutions we need to think about too, but that could be one of them.
Yeah, one of the other issues here is, like, we're also talking about parents who are on parent portal, talking about parents who are involved. I think we're forgetting about a certain segment of our population where a lot of that just does not exist, where the parent might know that the students are being absent or just not there, or not going to class or not, but they might not have the bandwidth. They might be working 2 jobs. There's so many parents, couple, even my advisees, that they just don't, that they can't check. Like I've tried to get them on parent portal, and it's not happening. Or if they do on parent portal, they're not checking. Or if, you know, there is this, we have to remember, there's a lot of parents like me and like you all that, because to me, I check parent portal every day. I don't need a notification because I'm in it every day, looking at what my kids did every day. But I know that I'm different than some of these parents. We have a segment of our population that the parents just are not there. You know, they're not parenting. You know, the kids are parenting themselves. Like, if we're just being completely honest, like there's those points where you think if a kid had 25 tardies and 30 absences that their phone would get taken away or they would be on punishment, but they're at school the next day because their parent is not parenting. Like there's a lot of parents, and I use that lightly because I just don't know the numbers, so I don't like to do that. But there's a segment of our population that the parents are not parenting. Like, they're expecting for when they drop their kid off in the morning or when that kid gets put on that bus and they come to school. It is our job now to be the parent. It is our job to make sure they go to class every day. It is our job to make sure that their grades are good. It is our job to do all that. And as teachers, we just don't have the time and the energy to do all that a lot of the times. You know what I mean? So there's so many dynamics happening within this whole tardy absenteeism thing that, like, it's a major issue. And I really think we really have to treat it like we're in crisis mode right now, because a lot of these kids that I'm seeing over here at Cedar in the halls, and you know, are like that have a 12 in the class and have 32 in the other class and they have no chance of graduating. In a couple years, we are going to see the outfall of this. We are going to see numbers drastically drop. And I just don't want to get to the point and be like, we're our hands in the air and we're like, well, I don't understand why this happened. Like, what are we doing? Because we see that this is happening. We see we are driving and we are about to run into this wall. But and I'm not saying we're not doing enough. I'm not saying any of that. I think we're all trying our best. But right now, we are in crisis mode and we have to figure this out, because in a couple years, like, these numbers are going to drop drastically, and we're no longer going to have it's no longer going to be the point where the state is going to allow this to happen, because COVID's going to be over a couple years ago, and we're going to be way below all those numbers. And the state is going to be looking at CCSD like, what are y'all doing?
All right, thank you. Lots of good points, and it is a very big issue, and I hear the crisis. Thank you.
Can I just add something very quickly, and just to put it out there? We do, again, like Dr. Thomas said, we do have checkpoints, and we do have, and again, we keep talking about the high school, but I try to be solutions-based, always, ways that things can get better. How can we incentivize these kids or their parents even to come to school? And I don't have outward solutions, but I do know that there are some things that could help. And I don't know if it's the same at Cedar, but you know, Clark Central is so very central. It's very easy to walk off campus. There's just a lot of places to come and go. I do know, again, Heather, as you said, we need more bodies, so that if I personally am doing a hall sweep during my planning, you know, I'm telling a kid to get to class, and they just go down a floor and then they're still wandering. So, you know, there's just not enough of us to do that. So there do need to be, and I don't know, again, solution I keep thinking about, was it dads on duty? I thought that was great. But we also have, if a kid has an extreme amount of attendance issues, absences, we do have the responsibility of reaching out. And so I will email the counselors, and they will take care of it, or then it goes to the social worker. But we also have one social worker that we share with another school. And I mean, we have almost 2,000 kids. So our social workers can't always get to it. We have an attendance committee, and they look at those kids. And then if you're 16 and older and you have 10 days consecutive absences, you're withdrawn. So it's this, we have all of these policies and procedures in place, but I just think we're going to have to get creative. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what the incentives are. Your kid came, we always talk about the football tickets, but your kid came for 2 weeks and wasn't tardy. Your tickets are free for this game. I mean, it's that kind of thing, because you always get a really great turnout for the football games, maybe not for AP night. So what are some ways that we can get creative in encouraging people to come to school? Because as we've seen historically, punitive doesn't fix it. And Montu's right, you know, the problem's just going to keep going. And then our next cycle of students, it's the same thing. So I just want us to try to think that way and maybe outside the box, maybe do some research to see what other school districts, what other schools have done to incentivize. I know years ago we had the posters everywhere because I was on it and I was like laughing about it, but it was like, when you're not in school, we miss you and you miss out. And so there was a lot of encouragement to come to school. And at Clark Middle, if you had perfect attendance, you got popcorn on Fridays. You know, I mean, it was little things, but it was creative, outside the box thinking. And so I kind of want to just throw that out there and say it. And I'd be happy to like get on board with that. I know there's already attendance people, but you know, creative and solutions based as much as possible. So we know we got problems, but what can we do to fix them?
Like the heart, Rachel. Anything else on attendance? I think we have some good ideas. I will say this is in line with what we heard from the high school teachers, which was the policies need to be there. We need to be clear about those, and we need carrots, not just sticks.
Just a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I just interrupt someone?
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Lee. You haven't had a chance to talk yet. Go for it.
Yes, I'm just going to, we've talked a lot about the high school issue, and I'm just going to say, when I was at APS serving on their LSGT, there was a problem with attendance, but one of the things that the principal was able to do, and she did a very good job of, is offering incentives, and really started doing like, now COVID certainly interfered with this, but she started doing like a monthly awards program for kids, and part of it was for kids who had good attendance. And as it turns out, a lot of parents were coming to those programs, and so that was a good opportunity to talk to the parents about the importance of children having good attendance. And so I think that really worked some. So I know it worked at the elementary school level. So that's one of the things that I know the principal there did. It was a good incentive program.
Thank you. Rachel?
Yeah, thank you. You know, in the spirit of solutions focused, you know, I love it. I'm just wondering who's going to help brainstorm those solutions further? Whose job is it? Which committee is it? Is it this group? Is it another group? Do we need a think tank session? You know, thinking about this in crisis mode, I feel like we need action. So we need, you know, obviously the brainstorming around that, but we do need someone to kind of own it. So who even does that? Is it us? Is it another group?
Yes,
I don't know. I mean, I'm asking a very honest question. I don't know who does that.
Well, I will turn it over to Dr. Thomas. I will say that this has been a discussion point with teachers, with our social workers, with staff here, with the board. So I think the more ideas that we can pull together for when the folks who are working on it, you know, they are working on it now and continue to do that, have as much feedback and input and perspective, and to be able to clearly identify the issues. It's not one thing, right? There's the hall walkers, there's the attendance, there's the late grade policy. There's a lot of things that are connected. So it's going to take a lot of collaboration. Dr. Thomas, did you want to speak more to that?
Yes, ma'am. So the lead person, this comes under our student services department, which is led by Dr. Jillian Watley. Okay. And the person from her department that's been over that is Miss Crystal Gillis, who is our coordinator of social work. I'm sorry. And so attendance falls under that department and then that sub department. And so, excuse me, Dr. Watley and Miss Gillis have led that work and work with our social workers who then work with the related schools on that. And then Miss Gillis is also our point person with committee that's in the community. But I do think that having as many collective voices as possible and ideas and solutions. So as you were saying that, Rachel, I was thinking like, where do you pull together these different individuals and voices to give some ideas that we might not have thought about? And so that's something that I'm going to present to Ms. Gillis and Dr. Watley tomorrow. Ms. Monex and I can do that.
Great.
And then back out and maybe reach out to have representatives from some of these different advisory groups and committees.
That's great, Dr. Thomas. Yeah, it may just be like a Word document. I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking super simple, like let's get it done as quickly as possible. Like just start capturing it all in a long list as long as we know who to get it to. It's really good to know that Dr. Watley and her team is leading kind of the ownership of it. Thank you.
Yes, and we can get, if a group from this group wants to work on it and then get that information to us, but we can then a contact person from here to reach out to connect, for Ms. Gillis to connect with.
Yeah, perfect. Great idea. Yeah.
Going once and twice on attendance.
I have a quick idea. I just remembered something that used to work pretty well. And it was years ago, Clark Middle. I think they may still do this. And I know that we've tried this in the past, but we need to get into the communities where we're seeing maybe spikes in, I guess, attendance issues from those particular communities so that we can go to community centers, to a local church, and maybe the beginning of the school year, beginning of the semester, when the semester changes, to reinforce or to even like be there to hand out pamphlets or something to say, this is the attendance policy. And again, when you miss school, we miss you, you miss out, our cutesy thing. Give them a koozie, give them a water bottle, and pump up our image, but also build those community networking by being out there. So just a thought.
Megan, it's a good point. It makes me think about the neighborhood leaders too. I mean, we need more than just that group, but that is a group that maybe we could tap into pretty quickly and also get their input on the brainstorming side of it as well.
One more thing that I'd like to say is that once we get them there, then we need to have something in place for the possibly hundreds of students who are still reading at the 3rd grade level in high school. Nobody is going to come to school for an entire day and not be able to keep up. I think it's unrealistic to expect the kids to come in and behave when they know they can't do the work. So we have to have something in place for them once we get them to school.
That's a great point.
Thank you.
And I don't know who does that either. So.
Karina, yeah, I see your hand up.
So I think you just said exactly what I was going to say. But I also want to add, like, if there is an effort to go out into the community or into neighborhoods, or even like if there are a group of students that have historically missed a lot of days of school, I think that schools and the district, and this is coming from me as a parent, should be able to communicate why school is important and how it's beneficial, because I think like our education system as a whole, not just Clark County, is competing with educational or platforms that are providing education in 60 to 120 seconds. And if they can learn more from classrooms, then there's less motivation to come to school because they can learn the same stuff in 60 seconds. So I think that we need to be more creative and innovative about what we're teaching and how we're expecting students to learn, so that coming to school or attendance is not as big an issue because they're interested in what they're coming to school for, if that makes any sense. And a comment was made earlier about students and parents like there being, I guess, an illusion that parents don't care. So I'm a parent of a senior who does not show up for his first period class, period. It doesn't matter how early he gets up. He drives to school. It doesn't matter. He's not showing up for that class. And I can encourage him and motivate him, but it doesn't really matter because he doesn't feel like he's getting anything out of that class. But he goes to the 2 classes that he needs in order to graduate. So it's not, like we can't put everybody in a bucket, or we can't say, like a large group of parents don't care, they don't have time or the energy. I don't have the energy to argue with an 18-year-old about going to a class that he does not need to graduate. So I think it looks different when we're looking at attendance. Everybody's situation is different. So we don't need to come up with like 1 or 2 solutions, but like putting out all of the possible solutions so that, like we cover everybody. We don't have a standardized way of addressing an attendance issue. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Does that mean that maybe we need to look at our graduation requirements? If they know, as I said, just that they have 8 credits, 8 is a whole year to play with. That's motivation for not going. Oh, I can make it up later. Oh, I've got time. Oh, I can. Oh, I can. So I just wondered if that might be something that needs to kind of go in with this idea.
Possibly, but we also don't need to make it to where we're requiring students to go to school for the sake of going to school. So if we are exploiting the other options or opportunities, so if you've done all of your credits, you have an option to do dual enrollment. And so here's an option. Or, like making sure that we're partnering stronger with community partners or businesses, and making sure that we are linking students up with other opportunities outside of the school building, because a lot of kids don't learn in a classroom. So I think, yeah, we just got to get more creative about how we're expecting students to learn in an environment that clearly at least 20% of the student population don't feel like, I don't know how many high school, but if we got 80% of the kids who show up, 20% aren't, we're gonna have to do something different.
Well, we're on page 4 of notes, so I think we've done good work with respect to thinking about the issue and starting to think about some solutions, being creative. It's not one solution, it's not one approach that's going to help us solve the problem. We can stick on attendance, or we can move on. For those of you who I can see your faces, thumbs up if you're ready to move on, or if you've got more comments we can talk about. Okay, thank you. We'll move on. I will venture to say the student cell phone policy may be connected to this. Either Kara or Karina, do you have a clarifying about student cell phone policy?
I think it came up because of some public comments from teachers about that there isn't actually a cell phone policy that is district-wide. And so some teachers were talking, obviously it's really hard to compete with people who are on their cell phones, and it's very distracting. And so, and also it's very difficult to take away cell phones from, almost adults. So they were asking about whether we would have a cell phone policy that could kind of back them up. And so I think we just wanted to know, to me, I have younger kids, so to me, it seems like, yes, we should have a cell phone policy. You shouldn't have cell phones in the school. But I also know that there are lots of things that are different when kids are older, and there are lots of things that I haven't thought of. And so I think we just wanted to hear people's perspectives about whether or not a cell phone policy would be something that would be a good thing to have.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Very good. I will open it up, and we've had a couple of other folks join. So Thank you. It's good to have you here. We are talking about the student cell phone policy, and feel free to offer your thoughts.
I think there should be a policy, cell phone policy, definitely, as in no cell phones.
Okay, I was gonna say, what should the policy be? No cell phones, okay? Others?
I would agree as well. I think cell phones are a huge distraction. They cause a lot of issues at school, as far as fights, bullying, things like that, because things that happen outside of school then make their way into the school. And then it's really fast for things to start going around the school, or hearing information about fights or whatever. They're like, it just seems to cause a lot of problems. My husband works for another county. He works in a middle school in another county, and the kids know when they get to middle school that they don't take their cell phones to class. You put your cell phone in your locker in the morning, and then you get it at the end of the day. And they all know that, and they all do that, and they all know what that is. That's what it's like when you get to middle school. It's just what it is. It's the district policy. It's done. That's what it is. And I feel like Clark County doesn't have a clear cell phone policy. And it seems to, not only from school to school, but from teacher to teacher, there doesn't seem to be a clear indication of what those policies are. And I don't know what the solution is, but I do feel like there should be, maybe the kids like put it in a pouch at the front of the class when class starts, or something like that. And I'm sure there's some pushback from parents, like, oh, I need to get in touch with my kid during the day. There's been times where my daughter has not had her phone at school because it's been taken away. And she can get in touch with me. She has email, and she can go to the office and call me. Like, those are two ways she can get in touch with me. So, if there is pushback from parents, I don't know. I just feel like they cause a lot of issues in the classroom: distraction, fights, recording kids, recording teachers. There just seems to be no benefit to having cell phones in the school, period, in my opinion. So.
Hi, Dr. Allen.
I apologize for my tardiness. But along with the cell phones, I think it should be included for the smartwatches or the watches, because they can, call and do things on that too. And, if you take their phones away, then they sit on their MacBooks and they do the text messaging on the MacBooks as well. So I think all of that should be taken into consideration when you're looking at a policy, and also making sure that the parents understand or should know their children's schedule, because they call them during class and text them during class, which is a disturbance. And I think that should be addressed with parents as well, if there is not even a policy.
I'm sorry, Emily, can we back up? You said this came up how, when, what's the backstory here?
So all these topics all came from board members who, when we asked them, what would you like to hear from your board advisory committee, this is what they said. And Kara said that these came from some teachers who were talking or discussing. Is that right? Yes.
Yeah, I know it came up during public comment, the idea that there wasn't a policy, and so teachers didn't feel like they were able to enforce anything because there wasn't a policy to back up asking people to put their phones away or whatever. It was kind of either school by school or classroom by classroom.
And I agree with that. I'm questioning, what are the numbers of actual like discipline issues and problems that we're having because of cell phones? I would like to know how many discipline problems, how many actual I guess, referrals and things we're getting because of cell phones. And maybe I'm not the best one to speak to this because I have a no cell phone policy that I have not had a single issue with. No, I'm sorry. I had one issue. But when they walk into my room, they go straight into a box. And there are days I forget, and they know that if I see cell phones, I'm like, whoa, and they put them away. So I haven't had that. And I know there's some other teachers that do that, but there are other teachers who are like, that is just not a battle I'm ready to fight. And maybe it's because the backup isn't there. But I also am concerned that if we start this, that is a lot. I know when we tried this before the pandemic, that was a lot of time for our security officials at the high school that was spent on responding to parents, meeting parents, giving the phones back. The kids were trying to get out of class to go get their phone. The kids were, I mean, it became more of the attendance policy, and it became more of our security time dealing with cell phones and not kids going to class, kids skipping class, kids getting in fight. I mean, so it's just this storm that I think we need to look at the way that the ripples will affect other parts of our school building. So that's all I have to say. And maybe, again, disclaimer, little asterisk here. Maybe it's because I do teach freshmen and they come from middle school and they know they're not supposed to have them. But if that is also something that is brought from 9th grade to 10th grade, if it becomes the culture at the high school, it won't be quite so dramatically an issue. But I don't think at high school, I know so many of my kids need their phones. I mean, I just know that they do. Jobs, parents, little brothers and sisters. I mean, they've got a lot of responsibilities.
Megan, you have them put it like a communal box, if you remember, when you remember, and they all go in the box and they come out of the box.
Yeah.
At the end of
As they walk in my room, I have my little station. They grab a paper towel to wipe down their desks, and there's a tub for the paper towels and there's a tub for their phones, and they put them in there. And then at the end of the period, they go and pick up their phones. And I will say, just as a quick aside and kind of funny story, we had a fire drill and I said, I've got your phones. They did not leave my side, and I accounted for every child within minutes of getting outside that building because they were not going to leave their cell phones.
They were following you. They were following the
yeah.
phone.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Other thoughts or comments on a student cell phone policy? Questions? I have your question down about the number of discipline issues and referrals and looking into that.
And prior to that, how many situations were our security and administration officials, how many situations were they dealing with that, they could have been dealing with something a little bit more vital. I know they're a distraction, y'all. They are. That's why I have them put them up. I realize what they're doing to our classroom environment, but I also realize that, as teachers, we got to do something about it. Sorry, teachers who are going to be mad at me.
Well, I wonder how many other teachers are doing what you're doing, or what are some of the other solutions that other teachers have? That because if you're getting, if what you're doing is working, if what someone else is doing is working, let's look at what's working and then try to draw from that.
Yeah, because what works for me, because I'm a big mouth, brassy, kind of no nonsense, and they know that. So that's the way I play it. But there are some other teachers that are doing it in a quieter, different way, and it's working for them. And yeah, I do think we need to look at all the different ways that it can work, because it does work.
And it sounds like maybe the key there is, Megan, you're being backed up by that policy. No one's saying you can't do that. You can't put the phone away.
No, I did have that one student who would not put away the phone, and it wasn't the first incident. And it was not the first reminder, and it was so gentle for a very, very long time before it was just one of those days. I said, that's it, bye. And my administrator immediately came back and said, you do need to turn on your, it wasn't even, I think they missed 5 minutes of class because my administrator took care of it like that. But that was it. And that's the only issue I've had.
Okay. Sorry, Lillian, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I did that by accident.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I'll back Megan up real quick as a parent with a rising ninth grader. So they actually told all the parents who were at the parent night at Clark Central about that. So Megan, they didn't use you as an example. And I did talk to some of the teachers represented at that parent night. I'm not sure if it was you or not, but I remember hearing that from anecdotally from a few teachers kind of sharing what they're doing for cell phones. But then it was said from the stage too. Now, of course, it was only a limited cohort of the parents, but it was loud and clear. And, my student was sitting right there with me and she was like, that's great. I actually support it too, because she sees the distractions in the classrooms, even at Clark Middle. I will say though, she also sees the distractions on the actual school provided device with kids emailing back and forth. And in a lot of cases, they're actually emailing kids that are literally sitting right next to them in the classroom. So I don't think that we can just think about this as a cell phone distraction. I think there's multiple things that are distracting kids, device related in the classrooms. And if we get so myopically focused on cell phones, we may miss some of the opportunity to teach some respect and some, cyber citizenship, and how do we all know we need cell phones to, thrive in many of our worlds, personally and professionally. And so how can we go ahead and empower them and teach them those skill sets, those life skills that are really, really important? I think we need to look at some of that, as well as the unintended consequences that Megan has already mentioned of policies that kind of trickle down effect.
Other comments? Kara, Karina, you think it's clear as mud on that one? That's good. Good to hear it from all different perspectives. All right. Next up, we have budget priority areas. It is budget season, as you know, and later this month, there will be the public hearings around the budget and the millage rate. But Kara or Karina, if there are specific questions that you all have been hearing about priority areas or how to talk about the budget, to clarify that topic, please do so. Well, I'll start with there is a budget, and it's so that's good. And there's a draft budget out there, and like I said, there will be public hearings. Are there questions that I probably will not be able to answer at this moment, but either Kara, Karina, or Dr. Thomas, or we can write these questions down and make sure we get them back to you. Because if you have the question, it's very likely that others will, and we want to make sure to cover that in those hearings. Yeah, Dr. Allen.
My question is the millage rate at max right now for the school district?
That
Okay.
I know. The millage rate is maxed out at 20.
Okay. I just wanted to verify that.
You get your tax commissioner statement in the mail. Me too.
So is there a place to see the current budget?
So the draft is on, I think it's on the website, and there's a presentation about it. I'm not going to say how detailed the what's on the website is, hold please, but it would be on finance and business, the FY 2022 and 23. So I'll see if I can drop it in the website, but there's the tentative budget for approval, there's a dashboard, there's a presentation, there's some information about the tax digest. So there is a good bit of information on the budget.
I guess one thing that comes to mind is that there has been a lot of conversation about the school district being top heavy in administration.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the budget will help support that or not support that. So what I was really thinking was looking at the current budget and then the proposed budget, kind of comparing the two. I don't know that much about the school district budget at all. So it would be very informative to actually see what it is.
Yes, I think that's right. We do get that question. And there was some comparison about positions specifically at the district level. I can find that and drop it into our notes. But with respect to every line item, I think it looks like you can go through what was last year and what is this year and kind of line them up and compare. The budget presentations will draw attention to things that are significantly different or have changed. And again, it's a draft proposal, right? The board approves the budget. So this is the proposal, the recommendation that the superintendent is making.
Could you send us a link to that?
Yes, I dropped it in the chat, but I will also put it in the notes. Yes.
Thank you.
If we're just having a broad discussion about the budget, I've been saying this for a very long time. I mean, I've been very involved in the school since my daughter started here in kindergarten. To me, what makes Clark County special is the people. It's the teachers, it's the bus drivers, it's the counselors. So I am always for spending money to get people into the building. I don't want to spend money on computer programs or paying firms to do surveys for us or things like that. To me, that's not important. What is important is having people in the building. For example, social workers, counselors, things like that. We should have a counselor minimum for every grade level in this county because we have gone through, we have kids who are struggling at home. And now we've had COVID. And so the kids here have experienced a lot of trauma. And I think that accounts for behavior and attendance issues. So we need to get more people in the building so that our students can have the support they need. To me, spending money on computer programs doesn't help anybody. Spending more money at the top doesn't really help the kids. I don't see, she started kindergarten here, she's in 9th grade now.
We are losing you, Heather.
More social workers, we need more counselors, we need to be able to get more substitute teachers into the building.
Okay, you were going in and out, but we need people, we need folks, the social workers.
Sorry, just my internet connection's unstable, so
yeah.
Can you hear me better now?
A little better.
Yeah, counselors, we need to programs. So teachers are not having to cover other teachers' classes during their planning time or having to cram 50 kids into a classroom because another classroom doesn't have a teacher. Those are the kinds of things that day to day make a huge difference. That's people. We need to invest in people in this county, not programs or firms to help us figure out how to do something. That's not what we need. We need people. And I've been saying that for since the first meeting I went to, probably when my daughter was in kindergarten. That's just how I feel about it. I would like, to me, a dream world would be at least one counselor for every single grade level in Clark County. And every single classroom would have a teacher and a paraprofessional. Because think about, you're talking about the kids who can't read, they're in high school and they can only read at a 3rd grade level. Well, what if you have a small classroom with 20 kids and you have 2 people in there? You've got one person who can deal with behavior issues while a teacher's teaching, or you can have 2, a teacher that can work with one group of kids, another teacher, the paraprofessional can work with another group of kids, things like that. Like we need to really focus on people. So I just wanted to get my 2 cents in about that, especially as the wife of a teacher. So.
All right, very good. Thank you. Other comments?
I'm going to say, I don't know that we can necessarily look at the past budget and determine how this budget should be going. I don't know if we can necessarily look at what the administrative part of the budget is looking like because we've had so many issues with COVID. I definitely agree that we need more, as it's put, boots on the ground, or it certainly would be helpful to have more teachers, parapros in classrooms to help out, social workers, that sort of thing. But we also have to look at the overall picture in terms of what has happened, not only what COVID has done to the educational system here in Clark County, but actually all over. So it's a full picture. It's looking at everything.
Thank you.
Is there a place in the budget where they're looking at increasing hourly salary for our classified? I know that is, when you talk about boots on the ground, that to me, I mean, I know our school district is about students and teachers, but right now we are, for example, at Clark Central, I'm up on the 3rd floor and we have no working boys bathrooms. We have hall monitors, but they're not there full time. And, you know, not having boys bathrooms because we can't have enough, I guess, from the custodial staff to come in, or from what the department that fixes things. Sorry, it's just it's gone, but to come in and fix. And so, you know, we don't have enough bus drivers, and are we paying substitutes enough? Because it's not easy. And it's those. And then, honest to God, I can do my job a little bit better. It's a little more seamless and smooth. It's smoother for the kids. I'm not having to worry about where are they going to the bathroom and are they going to be gone for the 15 minutes legitimately because they can't find a functioning toilet. Or I spend Mondays covering ISS during my planning because we needed it. And teachers, you know, we brainstormed and we said, hey, we need ISS. And now we're volunteering. They've got somebody in there, but we still need to be in there to help. So it's these people, the support staff, that is, it's necessary. It's so necessary. And we need to pay them more. We just need to pay them more. Pay them a lot more. Please, more.
Yes, that I can tell you. Everyone is going to be paid more.
And I was going to say, I don't have an issue with that.
So everyone is getting an increase, and the folks that are at the lowest end of the pay scale, and I'm not in HR, so I might not use the right words, but they will have the largest percent increase. And so somebody who previously started at $9.99 will start at 13 and something. So it's a pretty significant percent increase at the bottom, and it goes all the way up. So everybody will receive a pay increase. Kara or Karina, explain that better, but the charts are out there. They're, again, still in draft form, but I can add a link to those because we have been sharing them too.
I was just going
to say,
go ahead, Kara, and then Karina.
You did get it. I was just going to say that Dr. Blankenship has been working really hard over the last year to figure out how to bring everybody's pay up, and so that's been a big project that she's been working on. And so yes, everybody will be getting a pretty significant, or you know, especially the people who are at the lowest hourly rate will be getting a pretty significant pay raise. And again, probably still not to the point that we would like, but she's not done yet either. So sometimes it has to be like a sort of iterative process.
That was my next question, is will we be competitive with some of these other fields, the hospitals, the university around us, but maybe not right at first, you're saying, Kara, and we're working towards that?
I definitely think that we'll be more competitive now. I wouldn't be able to say for sure, but yes, I just want to say that, like, she's not done. She's not like, yay, we did it, and now everything's great. Like, so I think she'll continue to work on that and keep trying to bring those salaries up.
All right, well, with 9 minutes to go, ideas on ways to engage the board and board engagement ideas, Kara or Karina. I think this was about, like, how do we make sure that not just this group has it has a way of engaging, asking questions of the board, giving feedback to the board out in the community, all board members, not just the 3 that are on this particular committee. Is that right, Karina? Kara?
Yes, so what I was thinking was more for how would you, as you know, like parents, teachers, community members, like to see the board engage for, I guess, engagement.
Perfect,
So
thank
that
you.
you can see that the board is there for a decision.
I'm not sure I understand. Engaged with this board, with this group, or engaged out in
So
the
with the, I'm sorry, with the school board. So how could the school board, from your perspective, be more engaged so that in the community or with parents? Or are committees the best way to engage with school board members? Or just getting feedback on that. I was interested in feedback.
I think it would not be a bad idea to have the school board members in the schools more frequently, more regularly, whatever that looks like. Just subbing, volunteering, visiting, sitting in on classes. Additionally, as we said earlier, the going out into the community in various ways. This weekend, Clark Central is having a health day on Saturday that looks awesome. And, you know, come out in droves, going to, again, just the churches, the being at the football games, the basketball games, you know, being there, whether your child is or not, just, hey, we're here for you. I don't know if you have to wear like a special hat so people see you, but I don't know.
And I agree. I was gonna say basically the same thing as you, Megan, but I think then the problem comes in. We need to pay them more. You know what I'm saying? Because they do not get paid anything. I mean, I don't know the number. I think it's like $300 a month or something. So for us to ask them to like take time out of their schedule to like go to these community events and be in the schools and do all this, like we got to up their pay. So then we up their pay, and then they can be in these places because then they maybe don't have to work 2 jobs, or maybe they don't have to do these other things. So we got to up their pay in order to make that thing happen that you're talking about.
So one thing I will say about being in schools is that as school board members, and this is not just Clark County, we're not really supposed to be in schools because it can be perceived as if we are like trying to influence what's going on in the day-to-day operations of the schools. And sometimes it makes people nervous to have school board members in the schools. And we're really only supposed to be communicating with the superintendent. It's a very weird, it's an interesting position, but the school board is not supposed to be involved in the operations of the schools at all. And it makes it hard. And I totally get your point. And I think that being in the schools is like, how can you understand what the schools need if you're not in the schools? And I completely get that. But we've been told by like our school board training and everything that we're not really supposed to be like in the schools. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but it's odd.
No, you are. I just don't like that.
That's crazy.
Someone wrote.
All right, we're gonna go Lily and then Heather. Yeah, go ahead.
Someone wrote a recommendation on the chat that maybe there could be town hall meetings.
Yes.
That type. So is that something that's allowable?
It would be, yes. But again, like anytime a school board like I guess if it's like a board meeting or if there's a quorum of school board members there, then it's considered a board meeting. And then also the superintendent would have to be present also. So there's like a lot of rules about what we what we can and can't do.
Me about all of these rules is that sometimes the community and the board are at odds, and it's hard to bring them together if they can't come together in a non-threatening way, so that a relationship is made between the community, which the board is supposed to serve, the school community at least. I don't see from what you're saying how we could overcome that.
I can say that we do have board members that go into schools so there have been things that have been said at trainings, and then there have been superintendents in the past who were adamant that they didn't want board members in schools at all. Some of our board members go, they speak to classes, they go help volunteer on the day. And I think that was
Dr. Thomas, you're going in and out. I think we may have, I cannot hear her. Can anybody else hear her?
No. And I think what she was saying is that there are, oh, go ahead.
I thought she came back in. Dr. Thomas?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So like, I do have board members who go out, they volunteer for activities, events, but the principal or a teacher has invited them, and then the principal is informed. And then they always shoot me an email, which I believe is a part of our norms, if I'm right, Dr. Dykman, that if like a board member is going to be at a school, they just shoot an email and say, I'm going to speak to Mr. Miller's class about leadership, or he wants me to come talk about my career and what I do and share that with the class. So board members do that kind of thing. I think where the issue has been is in the past, there have been concerns that when the board member goes out, it goes from a volunteering neutral kind of perspective to I'm sitting in this classroom, and then, they come back and it may be, well, some teacher may be concerned, oh, a board member just showed up in my room today. They're going to complain about something I did. Is it, becoming evaluative? Are they taking that to my principal? So it's generally been on a invite request level of, please come in and speak to this class, come in and volunteer at this event. We need people on the first day. I think Dr. Maddox and some other board members have gone out on the first day of school to help welcome and cheer kids back. So things like that can be done. It's just has worked better aligned with what Dr. Dykman was saying when it is scheduled and organized, so that it takes away that fear of any kind of retaliation. And I guess the same way sometimes for leaders, it's like, oh, is that board member coming to see whether I'm doing what I shouldn't be doing? But when it's prearranged, it seems to remove that. Is that what you were going to say, Dr. Dykman? Yeah,
I was just going to say, and you're right, there are times that we go into schools, and like a lot of us do have children in the schools too. So we will, I go into my kid's school and I volunteer or whatever. But I guess it was the part about sitting in on classes and things like that is something that we wouldn't really be encouraged to do. I think, yes, if we're invited to give a talk or something like that, or if you're volunteering kind of for an event or something, I think that's different. And I think that a lot of school board members do that, but on kind of a regular kind of just observing basis, we're not really supposed to do.
Let me ask this. Isn't it permissible for school board members to have the quarterly meetings that was mentioned, that they could do that with maybe within their district? It's just one school board member and they're meeting with their constituents for that particular district, and then they can easily compare notes and the school board members talk to each other. So if they can do it individually that way, that's a good idea. With that coincides with the quarterly meeting suggestion.
Yes, Dr. Allen.
That was my suggestion about the districts, town halls. And I was thinking that a lot of people in the community, I know that as Ms. Kinsey talked about, there's a strife between the community and the board. There has been, I don't know if it still is now, but well, okay, it still is. But I think if there was an education component that the school board member could educate their district about what the school board member does, what they can and cannot do. And I think that would help, because I think we got kind of in the situation we were in before because some of the board members didn't know their roles and responsibilities. And the community didn't know, and maybe the community forced some of the board members to do things that were inappropriate. I don't know, but I think education is always important. And I think if we started there, and each, as Ms. Smith said, each board member that's attached to their district, if they would have those sessions and kind of help smooth things over in those areas, that may help a good bit. And they could bring that information back to this particular group and we could discuss it.
I totally agree. I agree, Dr. Allen. Yes.
All right, we have time for, thank you. Good suggestions. I got it down from the chat as well. We have time for one more and then we'll wrap it up. Dr. Allen.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Did somebody want to talk? Sorry, I can't see. That's if somebody else is talking. Yeah, I absolutely think that the board members should be able to walk in any school at any time and go anywhere that they need to go. I absolutely don't think there should be limits on what they can do, because if they're representing a school, they should be able to access that school. I think that there's a disconnect between what happens at the board level and with the district offices and what's going on at the schools. As a parent who's volunteered over the years, I've gotten to know the teachers and the custodians and all the people at the school, and they're very open about what they need and what would help them and what their issues are. I volunteered at my daughter's former school today, and I had teachers coming up to me, or if we're not friends, they know who I am. And, they were kind of talking to me about things that were going well this year and things that weren't and things that maybe could change. So if you're not, I think you have to have that face time. And people need to know that they can come and talk to you and be honest and not have any repercussions from that. But I think a board member should be able to go into any school at any time, because you can't really see what's happening if you're not there. So that's disconcerting to think that they can't do that.
All right, thank you. Ms. Gallagher, Dr. Dykman, anything before we close? We made it through all 4 items.
No, I just want to say thank you all for getting on and participating in the conversation and sharing your thoughts and ideas, suggestions, and asking questions. That's very important. And I really appreciate y'all taking the time to engage with us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you all. It was great feedback and a lot of things to work on. And I will reach out to Ms. Gillis and see about engaging some of you on an attendance group, to do like a think tank is what we really need to do. So we will look forward to inclusion around that. And be on the lookout for more budget conversations. We do have the 3 hearings that were mentioned, but we encourage you and then ask you to encourage others to come if you want to have input around that.
Well, thank you all. It was great to see you. I hope someday to see you in person.
Yes.
And until then, you all have a good last few days of the school year. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Thank
everyone.
you,
Thank
Megan.
you.
Good to be
Thank
with
you,
you all.
Dr. Thomas. Thank you all.
Thank you, Miss Lee. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.